Welcome to the drill down dashboard. I will briefly introduce you to the high-low method. I will briefly show you how to use this dashboard to quickly find the major weaknesses in your shop and then allocate your time and budget exactly where it makes the most sense. If you know nothing about this drill down dashboard and somehow ended up here by chance, then watch this video until the end. At the very end, I will briefly summarize the highlights in 2 minutes to illustrate the added value for you. Otherwise, here is the detailed guide on how to use the dashboard. It's really not rocket science. Firstly, everything is completely anonymous. Only you can see your data, no one else, because you can see here, I am logged in with my address at the top. You are using the browser and you first need to log into Google, which you do via accounts.google.com. There you log into your Google account, which also gives you access to your Google Analytics account. This is important because only through this verification can you see your data, and I can only see my data to which I have access. This way no one can access each other's data. That is in short. Then when you are logged into Google in the browser, you can select your shop from your Google Analytics account using this drop down at the top. And you can see here I have very many. All our customers are included here. You will probably only see those you have access to, so only a few, not probably, but you will only see those you have access to. And then the data flows in here smoothly and efficiently. I would always choose the date range to be at least large enough so that you are looking at least sessions here. You can see here the sessions are now on this board over the last 30 days. If you don't have much traffic, then go and set the period so that you are looking at least sessions. Only then is the whole thing really statistically relevant. The tables are always structured the same way. You see we have the channels, then source and medium, then landing pages and campaign. We also have an overview of devices and events. When we look at the channels, you always have the option to click deeper into each of these tables, and that's exactly the magic that I'll show you again briefly in a practical example in the last 2 minutes of the video. That's why it's called drill down. This means we keep digging deeper to go from anomaly to anomaly until we actually find the cause of this anomaly. Channels, for example, you see here affiliates have a very high bounce rate. Oh yes, exactly, the table. Sessions are the visits, which are the number of visits by individual visitors. New is the proportion of new visitors for this channel in this case, or for the source. Here you see the change compared to the previous period. The arrow back means the user left immediately again. That is a bounce, that is the bounce rate, meaning the user immediately clicked the back button or closed the browser, so they left right away. I had to use abbreviations here to include as much data as possible, hence the strange abbreviations. Again here, the change compared to the previous period for the bounce rate. Here you have pages per session, meaning how many pages are viewed per visit. The time the user stayed in the shop. The purchase rate, meaning the percentage of visitors who made a purchase, or the number of sessions that resulted in a purchase. Again here. The comparison to the previous period, the number of purchases, the revenue generated, the revenue per buyer, meaning the revenue per purchase. Then the share of visits, meaning 31% of all visitors came through this channel. 21% of all visitors came through organic search. 18% of all visitors came directly. Here too, the share of sales, meaning 35% of all purchases came through cross-network. 13% of all purchases came through organic search. And with that, you can already get an overview independently of this drill down method. If you see here that 21% of the traffic accounts for only 13% of the purchases, then I have already found something that looks very noticeable. That is a large share of the traffic that only makes up a relatively small portion of the purchases. So I can already see that the purchase rate for this source is below average. Just like here, for example, 13% of the traffic causes 4% of the purchases. I have also marked this directly with color so that it stands out immediately. If something is dark blue here and light blue there, you already know you should take a look at it. A quick word on statistical relevance. I already mentioned that you should at least look at sessions for this to have any value for you. Otherwise, you're dealing with numbers that are too small and chance plays too big a role. That's why I always have the Pareto in the last column for you. So the Pareto principle means focus on the 80% of users, or rather, first focus on those who make up at least 80% of the traffic. And I've included that here on the dashboard, which is essentially the running total of the share of visits. This means that 80% of all visitors come through the first 4 channels, and 70% of all visitors come through the first 3 channels. While the difference here is only these 2%, which I can more or less disregard, I focus on the 70–80% of the traffic, and you can find them marked in red here. Everything marked in red is what you should focus on initially, because that's where most of the traffic comes from. It's structured the same way for the source medium, and also for the landing pages, and although it's a bit more spread out there. This means you have 20% of the traffic through this page. Overall, you then have a total of 60% of your entire traffic coming initially through the first 18 landing pages, which you can then focus on. And you see down here, only about 2% of the traffic comes through these pages. It makes little sense to deal with them in detail now, which is why I have marked the 80% in red here. Exactly, now to the magic of the drill down. With each of these tables, if you find an anomaly here, let's just take these affiliates, which now have a 31% bounce rate, which is relatively high compared to the average. Your average is down here at 14%, that is the average. Anything that is above the average here, the bounce rate should be as low as possible. Everything else as high as possible, the bounce rate as low as possible. Then you have a very high bounce rate here compared to the average. So I would say this is an anomaly. And then you can highlight it, right-click on it, and then you can go to the next deeper level to see, okay, the channel is indeed noticeable, but is there perhaps a specific source that is noticeable for this channel? You see here the breakdown would be this channel, the channel, then it goes down to the source, then down to the landing page, then further down to the device, and then further down to the model of this device, and somewhere you will then find the actual cause of this anomaly. Let's quickly go through it. Breakdown affiliates. I get through to the source, there is now only one source, then it is clear that this source, this one source E, the affiliates through this channel, are actually performing poorly in comparison. So I don't need to go any deeper. Of course, I can now go further and say, okay, I want to see if it might be due to a specific device. But in general, if you had multiple sources here, one would stand out again with a relatively high bounce rate, while others would have a relatively low bounce rate. You always focus on the column that at the upper level, so going back again, caused the anomaly on the channel. And you then look at this same column, which seemed noticeable to you here at the next lower level. Let's go to the landing pages, it becomes a bit clearer there. Here I have a landing page with a relatively high bounce rate, for example. This one here. So I click on it here. You see here, in comparison, a relatively high bounce rate, 43% compared to the average, which is 19%. I click on it, right click to break it down, and then you see I'm now on the channel. Now I'm at the next lower level, and then it becomes clear this is a better example. Landing pages, Bytor, where the organic search performs very well with a 7% bounce rate, very low, so much lower than the current average of 43%, and the display traffic drags it completely down with a 48% bounce rate. So I can already assess here that the landing page is not the problem, but rather the problem is obviously the very high rate from the display network. I have found my anomaly again, and wherever there is a noticeably high bounce rate, I then delve deeper by breaking it down. Right click to break down, and then you see there is no problem with the display network. There is also no problem with the landing pages. The individual landing pages are not the problem. The display network is not the problem, but rather the traffic from the affiliate partners who send traffic to the shop via the display network is poor, and that drags the entire average down. Thus, it would have been disastrous if you had already said at the top level, hey, this landing page is bad, let's tinker with it, let's do everything possible to optimize this landing page. It would have completely missed the mark. You would have invested money and time in the optimization, whereas the problem wasn't the landing page, but you have now discovered through this drill down that the issue was actually at the level of the visitor source. That's how you kept going further down. That's basically how this drill down works. You always look at high-low, you always look at the highest bounce rate, or the lowest pages per session, or the lowest purchase rate, depending on what seems noticeable to you here. And then you keep drilling down until you found the root cause of the problem. Feel free to write to me. I'll quickly include my email up here so you can ask me questions, report problems, or if you want to continue working directly with us, you can look around here. I'll also include all sorts of freebies at the very bottom of the dashboard, way down below, like our checklists, our online shop, and so on. You can continue to look around there, and until then, I wish you much success, lots of fun, many insights and many weaknesses that you can find here with the drill down method and the drill down dashboard and the hello method. All right, good luck, good sales. See you then. Bye.